So, first and foremost, what is good, y'all? I know it's interesting because I know I've definitely been vocal about, at least not big on tutorials at all. You guys should know this by now. But I remember I did a tutorial and I had asked a question in the video if you guys thought these tutorials were useful, at least with the different voiceover. I'm not going to be doing a step-by-step voiceover in this one, okay? So don't prepare yourself for a step-by-step haircut tutorial. Instead, I want to go ahead and just drop some game like I've been doing if you've been keeping on my channel in terms of more business sense, especially for barbers in the barber industry. And then, you just kind of have the tutorial kind of going on in the screen wise, at least, if you pick up anything, of course, this is some like a haircut I did, I believe, back in 2018, maybe. Been retired for over a year now from cutting hair, so don't think I'm back cutting hair at all. This is like from a couple years ago. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. And I think for this video, I really wanted to go ahead and more talk about, I had a conversation with the barber earlier this week, and we were talking more about in terms of, what he, what struggles he's going with his business right now. And the biggest thing he told me was, he knows he's way too dependent on the barbershop. And I think a lot of barbers, including myself, have gone through this or are currently going through this. I mean, of course, I don't cut anymore, but I've definitely gone through this before in my career before. And it's a complete shit show to try and get through, to be quite honest, because it's kind of the basis of how the hamster wheel of barbering, when I like to think about it, or call it at least, really begins at. Because the main thing that the barber needs to understand is when they feel dependent, at least in my experience, most times the dependency that I had on a barbershop was because I viewed myself as an employee instead of an owner. When I was charging $16, I was for sure in an employee mindset. When I was charging $150, $200 per haircut, you bet your ass I was thinking like a CEO, right? And I think that's the mental shift that needs to take place, especially in the barber industry. With the employee mindset for myself, I mean, I think this thing really starts out at the beginning when I think all of us get into the barber industry, right? I mean, again, there's no blueprint laid out for anybody. There really is nothing when we go into a shop or even go into barber school. There's nobody telling us what to do or really a layout, how to go ahead and do it. Really, the most that there is go pass out some business cards, wait all day for 12 hours out of the day in the barbershop and get clients. But at the end of the day, that becomes more profitable for the barbershop owner, as that then becomes you're dependent on the barbershop and can't leave. But in the long run, it doesn't make for a good relationship. Honestly, it probably puts more strain on the barber of like, fuck this shit, I don't want to be here type of attitude, more so than, I want to be here working full time. And I think this really starts, with at least the worldview and really the vehicle of like how you see the world of like, okay, cool. As an employee, or just as an individual, I base my value off of my labor and brute force, which I think for the better part of the industry, and I know myself too, coming from a sports background, even coming from a Latino background too, that's like at the core belief of that, like, work hard, like you're gonna get paid if you work hard and all this stuff. But really, we have to think much smarter about how we go about this. Even for myself, I probably only worked one job, and even at that, it was serving Molinos freezes at like baseball games over here at Rivercat Stadium in Sacramento. But I think nobody in the industry, I mean, if you're a barber, more than likely than not, you haven't owned a business prior to this, right? We take this more as a hustler. And probably a lot of us are hustlers at mindset, at least, right? Cool, I go out, work hella hard, I'm gonna walk out with some money, I go ahead and do it the same thing every single day. And I think this, when you first enter the industry, look, it'll become profitable, you can build up your business, but I think at the end of the day, 3 or 4 years later, this shit gets boring, this shit gets tiring after a while. But when you act like an owner in your business, right? When you really get things like revved up and going in the right direction, like I've said this multiple times before, business gets fucking fun, especially in the barber industry, because you have zero constraints in terms of your system of operational flow in your business, where your clients that come in, your service delivery, the way clients go ahead and come back to you as well too. It's a recurring cycle that honestly becomes like a very fun game to play. And I think a lot of barbers, they just think of it as like, I hear a lot of barbers that go on calls with that want to get into, our program with Elevated Mentorship, where they're like, bro, I fucking hate waking up. And I like, a lot of barbers dread going to work. And for myself, there was a lot of times where I definitely wanted to quit barbering because like it was just like, nope, this shit's not fun anymore. This shit's like, it's just a redundant thing. I'm only making 16, 20 bucks a haircut. And the big mental shift I had to go through, because it's like a really big reality check, right? Like, okay, cool, like I've been doing this for a while, like am I gonna start over with something new or not? And it's like this moment where you have to really check yourself and say, okay, cool, well, what do I really want, right? And for myself, I had to go ahead and really think about, in terms of, okay, what do I want to do? Like, do I really want to start over again, or can I just go all in with this thing? And as you guys have probably heard from past videos before, I just went all in, right? But it just wasn't like going all in as an employee. It was going all in from a very different mindset of being and thinking and acting like the owner or the CEO of my business, which was being a barber, which means I'm not dependent on anybody. I'm not dependent on a barbershop to supply me with clients. I'm not dependent on walk-ins, because I think that actually reinforces the idea and the belief of the hamster wheel cycle of like, this is what barbering's supposed to be. Because when I talk to barbers too, and tell them, we have students who are making exponential results, per week, per month in their business that a lot of barbers probably don't even believe that they can make. But it's because of this traditional way of thinking. A lot of barbers, when I ask them, where do you want to be at in 12 months? Let's say a barber says they want to be going from like 5,000 or 3,000 to charging, making that 5,000 a month. We have to go ahead and I have to really break down to them, look, in this program, like, you're going to be making, like, you have to, like, we only allow people to be making like at least 8,500 a month. And that's just from the system and flow of the way we get things really revved up. And it's also the mental shift, right? And when you think like an employee also too, you're just going to listen to the boss, right? Whatever the boss says, it's going to get done, because my time and my worth is dependent on how well I listen and how well I execute on things that I'm being told to do, right? From the boss that calls the shot. So, boss says, hand out business cards, employee goes out and hands out business cards, instead of calling the shots on their own business. And I think when you're the CEO or when you start thinking from a CEO background or from running your own business background, you really start thinking, well, why would I even want to pass out cards? Like, that's not going to help me at all. Like, if anything, that's adding so much more work. Like, I think the worst thing I did was actually try to pass out cards. And by the way, I was like one of the most awkward people passing out cards to, in terms of like, I'm stuttering, I'm like handing out business cards, like, dude, you want to get an haircut from me? It's just like this awkward thing, for me at least. And I think with the flow of things, like, you have to be able to really keep, or at least minimize the upkeep of the client flow. Business cards does not minimize that at all. Because let's say you go ahead and pass out business cards, you get busy, you're charging $25 a haircut, you're comfortable. But if you raise prices up $5, $10, or you lose clientele whenever you price your prices up, you're gonna have to do that thing all fucking over again, which doesn't help with upkeep, right? At all. In fact, it probably slows you down more than anything else. And then we all know at a certain point in time, and I'm very like, I've actually tried it before in terms of telling people like how much I charge, or like I've had plenty of people ask me how much I charge it, whether it be when I was charging 150, 200 bucks, and they kind of laugh at me almost as if I was joking. But I'm completely serious, right? So at some point in time, and it's going to be much earlier than that too. Some point in time, handing out business cards and all that definitely does not scale at all. But you also don't want to keep on doing like the same redundant thing over and over again just to get busy. I think an employee wants to be busy too, right? I think when you come from the employee mindset, you definitely come from that, at least, cool, I just got to stay busy, make this money, and then a lot of times it just comes down to not thinking big enough. Like I said, the CEO is like, cool, where do I get to grow this thing? The employee mindset just like, all right, well, what do I gotta do just to make what I'm supposed to be making? And I think a lot of barbers see, maybe, and I think that's why myself, when coming from the employee background, or at least the employee mindset, you start adding on smaller services, right? Like I remember I added on like hot towels for extra, shampoos for extra, I think even did back massages or something like that, like a little hand massager on like their necks and on clients' necks, to compensate for like a little ticky-tack, like $5, $10 increases, which, at the time it was like, cool, I'm making more money, but in the grand scheme of things, would I rather be doing that, or would I be rather charging $150, $200 per haircut? And you bet your fucking ass I want to be. I would have rather been doing that if I had known what to do. And I think the first thing you have, like a barber has to understand, like, you know, when you come from the employee, at least like when you're in the shop and you're getting walk-ins, I think two split offs happen, obviously, right? One split off, the barber goes ahead and I've done this myself in terms of you just stay dependent. Like that's like you get into this space where you're like, fuck, if I leave, like I don't know if I'm going to continue baking up clients. I got to kind of stay here because I don't have a steady clientele. Or you get the barbers who have a steady clientele. They get comfortable. Like, cool, I don't want to be calling or taking or hearing any shots anymore from the barbershop owner. I'm going to go ahead and build my own studio or go work in my own studio. But even though they don't have a boss, you know, talking to them, unfortunately still, they get stuck still in that hamster wheel because, again, now they have yet to go ahead and develop a client flow system that brings in clients to them. And then they still don't know how to raise prices periodically as well too. And the upkeep on everything else, if they did want to keep it up or did want to grow, I mean, it now they have to worry about their own business. And also too, they've what I've noticed is barbers like that, they honestly, they don't like taking as many risks, right? You become more or less just like nervous to take those business risks because you have a lot more to lose. And that might speak to a little bit of, like I talked last week, in terms of we need to start thinking about more of a profit per cut mindset instead of the revenue number, how much we make each and every single month, but how much are we actually profiting? Because a lot of barbers don't understand how much they actually profit inside the barbershop, even when they are taking walk-ins, even when they go ahead and split off into their own studios. A lot of barbers that I talk to that want to get into the program, they, like I said before, they're making probably about $2, $5, even $7 profit per haircuts. And these are barbers that are charging like $30-$40. And it's a simple fix of just like, look, get a hold on top of your finances and really lock in with everything. But you know, I think the main thing that a barber, when you know, whether you do either one of the split offs, you got to know where you want to go in terms of like, cool, okay, we're obviously you don't want to be stuck in the hamster wheel. Hamster wheel is a death cycle, by the way, too. Like it handcuffs you to literally like just doing the same thing over and over again, literally being stuck in the same position and not really knowing where to go off that too, right? And I think the first thing that always has to happen is you gotta at least know where the fuck you want to go. I think a lot of barbers, even when I ask them like, you know, how much, you know, where do they want to go ahead and grow their business to in the next 12 months, even just starting out with something like that, a lot of barbers only say about like another $5-$10. Or even like what's even scary is a lot of barbers have only raised their prices $5 to $10 in the past 2 to 3 years, which was like me before, right? For myself, I mean, I spent 4 years. I actually like went back and before this video and was kind of like tracking everything. I actually spent 4 years from going from $16 to $40. That's what, a $24 increase, correct? Yeah, $24 increase over a 4-year time span. But from but in the next year, in the next 12 months, maybe it was like 14 months, maybe, I went from like really charging $40 to $150. And I think it's one, obviously it's the mental shift, but two, I just had to change how the way I operated my business, right? Even when I first started raising prices, I would always, like I said before, add on extra services. And eventually, honestly, I just stopped. Like I like once I got to 40, I'm like, fuck, what the fuck else am I gonna do? At some point in time, I'm gonna be doing their homework or something, right? I'm gonna be doing their taxes on top of this thing too. And it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why am I just always? I think that's what most barbers do. Every time they feel like they need to go ahead and raise prices, they feel like they need to do more. Even when I talk to barbers, well, what are you doing for your next price raise? Man, I'm just doing more. Working on my services, getting like adding on more services. It's like, please get out of that mindset, because it just in the grand, like looking back on it, it actually slowed me down. It took me away from the main thing, which was the hair cutting process, right? It actually forced me to then learn how to try and do something else instead of actually bettering what the hell I even got a license for. Which doesn't make any sense, right? We spent like however long and spent however much money to cut hair, and then we want to go ahead and like do everything else. And I know there are some educators out there who say, oh, well, you know, it's a way to make more money. Well, great, you can make more money as well cutting hair. Right? Like this cut right here, actually, this cut was, I believe it was 120. What was this, I don't believe I did his beard. You'll see at the very end. I kind of have the tutorial going on behind my notes. I know he has a beard. I don't think I did. I actually never did his beard. But it was a shear cut, so this was a $120 haircut. And you'll see, I don't think I added any enhancements to this one. He if I remember correctly, he didn't really get any enhancements. But there was nothing really too special about this. It's a mid taper all the way around, right? And I think a lot of barbers, like, they understand, a lot of the videos in terms of what I'm talking about, in terms of like this understanding of like, yeah, you gotta run your own business mindset, or you gotta get out of the hamster wheel. But the better question is, how the hell do you do this thing, right? Especially if you've been in this thing or been operating as a barber for a while, like how the hell do you get out of this thing? First and foremost, again, you have to audit whoever you listen to, and really take an audit of like, cool, what am I doing in my business? Does this make me get closer to my goal or farther away from it? Because again, if I look back at like everything that I was doing, passing out business cards, even the things I was doing on social media, I would have, like, if with what I know now, I would have cut out most of the shit I do on social media. And that's why I'm very hesitant to even say like just do social media, because I think barbers get a very wrong idea when I say that. Because even what I did back then when I was like scaling my prices up was terribly fucking wrong. Like I did some things right that helped, but obviously, honestly, I probably could have gone from 40 to 150 much quicker, if I knew exactly what the hell I was doing. Like what I do now, right? And obviously going from 16 to 40 in 4 years, which I think is what most barbers do too. And they probably cap off at that because they still consistently just go deeper and deeper in that rabbit hole, instead of peeking out and being like, okay, cool, what the fuck is truth in this thing? Because obviously truth is not the way we're running the barber industry right now. The barber industry in the traditional model of things is not. I don't believe it's truth at all. And honestly, when I talk to barbers, it kind of, I don't want to say I kind of feel bad, because like I've been there before. I remember feeling very lost and just like no fucking clue what to do. How the hell am I supposed to build clientele? I remember the first client I even took in a barber chair. I was like, how the hell am I supposed to cut his hair? I've never cut his hair before. And it's just all an iterative process. But I think a lot of times barbers go ahead and do something and they get out of the painful moment, and they're like, fuck, that was painful as shit. I don't want to go back there. The bad thing is you kind of have to go back to the pain. You have to continually go back to the pain and go back into a painful situation to experience growth again. Because once you get comfortable, bam, that's already like, it's almost reaches peak max volume with that thing. Another thing was, knowing what the hell to execute on. Again, most, like when I was, charging $16, hell, even when I was charging $40, like I said before, I was well on social media on that point in time. It wasn't like social media was the only thing I did. And I split it up this way because, I think when a lot of barbers, they say, just post. I hear a lot of barbers say, well, I'm like, or I ask them, what have you been doing? Oh man, I'm just posting every day. Okay, well, what is that supposed to do? Right? Like, okay, cool, you're posting every day. What is that supposed to do? I posted every day for like 4 years and only got up to about maybe $40. And I really switched up my idea of how my approach was, not just in social media, but my business overall. I went from 40 to 150 like that in 1 year. So we can't just double down and automatically go to social media. Does social media help? Yes. But is it the one thing that you need to know? Not at all. Now, I think a lot of barbers, like, they also kind of like get high off of, like, it's the dopamine spikes of like, seeing your it's very, very exciting to see your profile grow. It's very, very exciting hitting big videos. Trust me, if you go back on my Instagram, you can see me getting excited about it, right? But when I started like really revving this thing up, really taking the reins on this business that I had, cutting hair, it really wasn't just getting excited over big posts. It was more so knowing what to execute on and doing that constantly day in and day out. And a lot of that happened offline. A lot of it didn't happen online. A lot of it happened like behind the scenes, which, not a whole lot of people understood or saw. Of course, barbers saw like what I was doing on social media. They see a lot of what the students in Elevated Mentorship are doing on social media. So I get it. But I think the main point I want to get across is don't get caught up in social media is the only thing that you need. There are a lot of things that run a business outside of just social media. Social media is a vehicle to go ahead and at least minimize the upkeep of client flow, but it is not the main thing whatsoever at all. And you know, when I was at least like first, I remember like when I was, let me think here, when I was charging at least I remember I went from 60 to 20 bucks. And really what I was trying to like learn and execute on was like my main focus was really on how to get my haircuts faster, which was the worst idea ever. I remember like my goal was to try and cut hair in 12 minutes. Because again, like the hustle mindset, okay, if I cut hair in 12 minutes, I can do this, this, and this, and this, and this, or I can make this much money, right? You start trying to numbers crunch, until you realize like you have like you have like biological limits, right? Your shoulder obviously can't keep up at a certain point in time, and honestly, like the hamster wheel, shit's gonna get you tired. Your back's gonna be hurting from working long days. Because it's just the mentality of, cool, I stay in the shop longer, I cut more hair, that's how I make more money. Which is what we go against in elevated mentorship altogether. We go less is always more in this sense. But because I guess the first order consequence that most barbers want to get to, which is getting paid, which everybody wants to do. That's why we actually got into barbering, because we were able to make money. If we weren't able to make money, probably none of us would be doing this thing. Let's be honest, okay? But, you know, first order consequence of at least getting the money right now that we need, and it's lower, it kind of sustains us, but there are a lot of things that, one, to go to waste, two, you know, really for a lot of barbers, they're not profitable. And, you know, it's this biological limit that really kind of like, it's a bitch. I just say it in like a fucking lamest terms. It fucking gets you in the ass, because you want to make more money, you want to go in the shop, you know your Saturdays are like the busiest days, but by Saturday comes around, you're fucking tired of shit, you can't cut hair well, you can't execute well, and you know, on top of that too, I remember back then when I was like charging 16 bucks, God, what was my main focus? Main focus was more of like conversations, right? Like it just completely the wrong things. And that's not to say I'm not a conversational person, but that's just to say, what barbers want to focus on in terms of conversations, did conversations ever make me or allow me to be able to charge 150 bucks? Fuck no. Keep the main thing allowed me to do that and scale up to that point. But I remember I wanted to do that. What's another I think there was a lot of outside focus on other things, like recreational things, right? Like I wanted to party a lot. I think I was still playing like a rec league baseball, a rec baseball league, right? So activities that really didn't support me at all. I didn't really take care of my body. I really didn't take care of my business. I really didn't even like take control of like my client flow even. I think, you know, for myself, I just depended on like referrals. If people heard about me, they heard about me. If I went to like, I think the main thing a lot of barbers think, oh man, I just need to go out to like a lot of like, I need to go out. I need to see people. I need to meet people. I need to wear T-shirts with my name on. I need to pass out business cards. I need a card on the table. None of that. First of all, that gets you busy. Again, it gets you busy. An employee mindset, it gets you busy. It doesn't scale because you don't understand. Like, if you knew exactly what to do, where to go to, and every single time you would get 10 clients, 20 clients a month, and all you had to do was one time, it was easy. It would be easy. Cool. Go there. No matter what price I'm at, I do it one time. Bam, you come to me. But it's so scattered out. On top of that too, like a lot of barbers limit themselves to like the 5 mile, 10 mile radius of where they live at. When I was charging 150 bucks, I had clients who would flew in for me from like that would live in like Tampa Bay, Florida, 4 hours away in Fresno, and these were clients that would cut me like every 2 or 3 weeks or so, right? These aren't like one-time clients. These are like actually like, you know, most people who think like consistent clients are like the guy who lives down the street, when that couldn't be any further from the truth. So, you know, for us, especially like we have to be able to know what to execute on. And, you know, I think while most barbers like try to like just do everything again, throw the kitchen sink at their clients. Again, I focus on a very few key points. I didn't try to go off in too many directions, but really just laser lock. You heard me talk about laser lock focus all the time, and that's really what gets exponential results. Not trying to do everything and anything for a client or for a haircut or whatever it may be. And it's really the basis of, just switching the mindset of being an employee, doing lower level or like large inputs for small outputs, and really, okay, cool. You could do at least like a good half of that work and get most of the result out of that work, right? But most barbers just still think it's a 50-50 split when nothing in this world is a 50-50 split. It's very chaotic, and we might get the end of that. I know we're kind of getting towards the end of the video, but for those of you who, I've talked about elevator mentorship. For those of you who are interested in terms of like even just scheduling a call, see if you are a good fit for the program. Try to be at least a student inside of the program. I'll leave a link down below. You can go ahead and schedule a call with me and also watch the breakdown video. I will also be doing more of these. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing it weekly. I've kind of been flipping back and forth. I have a lot of content that, of course, I have at my disposal to go ahead and like release on YouTube. So I might just go ahead and start releasing and popping this thing off real shortly. So let me know in the comments down below, first and foremost, like what you thought of this video, kind of just thoughts and feedback, as well as like, cool, like do you guys, again, want to see even more tutorials on this, or at least more tutorials like this? Again, this was $120 haircut. Very, very simple. I didn't even do his beard. He loved the natural, like, remember him, Matt. Just simple style, just keep nice and clean. I know probably a lot of you thought, damn, he's going over like a lot of the haircut, but it's just, just focusing really hard on the details. Again, focusing on a very few key inputs of the haircut, what makes the haircut actually go, instead of trying to focus on time, because I think a lot of barbers focus on time, especially with cutting hair. But yeah, again, I will leave that link down below. And then also too, I know I talked about the profit per cut. We do have a, I guess a free little cheat sheet. We did in the last video, at least on YouTube. You can go ahead and check out at newerabarbering.com /resources. There we'll go ahead and it's actually in the resources section of the newerabarbering.com. As a new website that we just kind of popped up there. New Era Barbering is the educational company that I am currently running in the barber industry, really showing barbers how to get out of this hamster wheel death cycle. And so you guys can go ahead and check that out. Check out the resources. We'll probably drop a couple blog posts here and there. But that is it for this video, and I will see you guys next week.